As you can tell, there is a lot of empty space. Comic-Con is never this empty. I am back from Comic-Con Special Edition, the San Diego Comic-Con 2021 that was finally held in San Diego over Thanksgiving weekend after a 2-year hiatus, over a 2-year hiatus due to the COVID pandemic. I was so happy to be back. I, along with everyone else there, or even those who did not attend, kind of knew what to expect, and at the same time did not really know what to expect with the whole show, how it was going to run, what kind of exhibits and booths and guests were going to turn up. And in the last couple of weeks, everything just started hitting our notifications and emails and feeds on social media of what is actually going on. And as in years past, I have volunteered again. I've been volunteering for the last 5 or 6 years, so I have had somewhat of a similar experience. I actually went Thanksgiving Day to spend the night there just to make it easier Friday, and Friday, Saturday I was at the con. We did come back home. I did not go into the convention Sunday, but I did not need to, and actually I am kind of glad I didn't go for another day just because there wasn't really anything left for me to see or do. This video, I will kind of be talking about my experience. Was it worth it? That's essentially the whole point of this video. Was Comic-Con Special Edition worth it? So I did vlog a little bit. I did actually get a brand new GoPro, so I used that. So some of the footage might feel or look a little bit wonky because I was still getting used to this, but I couldn't really vlog too much because, like I mentioned, there really wasn't too much to see or do. Whatever I did see, I will talk about, from my moment of getting to the convention center to volunteering to the crowds to organization and lines and everything. And I will break it up into, I guess, chapters, and you'll see little timestamps down below. At the very end of the video, I will have like a full walkthrough of the exhibit hall, so it'll just be that I filmed my entire walk around the exhibit hall. It was a lot smaller than years past as well, but we'll get into that later. The first thing I want to talk about are the crowds. How were the crowds? This show did not sell out. You were still able to buy tickets up to, the day of the event, each day of the event, which you can definitely see. I mean, this was a Comic-Con, a San Diego Comic-Con, where you were not shuffling your feet, you were not shoulder to shoulder with people, you weren't smelling body odors and anything like that. For the most part, you had no trouble at all getting into and out of the convention or even walking around the exhibit floor, which kind of leads to the next point. The exhibit hall, not only was it so much smaller than years past, there was a lot more space because there were so fewer booths and tables and exhibits, but at the same time, a lot of empty tables and exhibits too, where you'd walk down a lot of artist alley rows and there would just be nobody set up, or the name placards would be there but nobody actually at the table. And there was a ton of seating and chairs, which I'll get into this next part. If you all know from that top area where if you come in early in the morning and you line up for the queue to get into the exhibit hall, that was all just tables and chairs. That was crazy to see. So I'll just get into my on-site thoughts. I'll show that little clip right now. If you've been to Comic-Con before, when you line up in the morning and you have to wait in the queue before you can actually go into the exhibit hall. It's that huge indoor, like a warehouse style, and this is it. It's basically empty. There's never all these tables. Back here is just line after line after line after line of people. We would normally go in through those doors to actually go into the exhibit hall in the morning. I think typically there might be some empty areas over here just for like art exhibits, but to see none of that over here, that's crazy. I'm not sure how crowds were Tuesday, Wednesday, because you were able to show up to pick up badges, and if you were a volunteer like me, get your volunteer assignment for Friday. I showed up Friday. The first line you had to get into was the COVID verification, like the vaccine or COVID test line. Hall A was the line for Funko, and then there's a random Hall H line somewhere on the other end, and the entire walkway in front of the convention center was being used for the COVID line. And when we got there Friday, the line was maybe down to Hall D or so, and it looked a lot longer than it actually was, but it only took maybe 20 minutes to get to the front. Comic-Con staff member checked my vaccination on the phone, checked my ID, gave me a wristband, and I was on my way. For me, for a volunteer, I went into Hall H. We had our volunteer area there. My first assignment for the day was at 2 o'clock to handle lines. Now, in the past, I've handled lines for various aspects of the convention, from badge registration to Hall H to managing like artists or guest tables and areas where there's going to be a big crowd. My line management today was directing attendees from the entrance of Hall H to the badge registration tables. So for 3 hours, I was just standing there telling people, keep going that way, keep going that way. I'm very grateful for volunteering. It's a amazing experience. You get to meet so many people, both on the staff side and other volunteers. You get to see and meet so many other volunteers who come from all walks of life. I mean, just people coming from all around the world who either could not get a chance to purchase badges like me in past years, or just choose not to, maybe for financial reasons or whatever it may be, or just to save money. And you work for 3 hours a day. Typically that 3-hour shift turns into maybe a 4 to 5 hour shift, because you have to check in a half hour early into your volunteer's shift. You have to go get a shift for the following day, and then sometimes you have to go check out, depending on, again, your situation with your volunteer area. You may just hand off your like a little card they give you to your direct supervisor at that time, or you have to go back to the volunteer help desk. So typically the volunteer allotment time for each day ranges from 3 to 5 hours, again, just depending. And sometimes you are delayed because you have to continue covering for people if there's a shortage of staff, or there's just the event you're covering is just so busy, they need you to help out a little bit longer. Now for the exhibit hall specifically, like I mentioned, I was able to walk around Friday, maybe half an hour. It took me to walk around the entire exhibit hall, not stopping and looking at specific tables and artists and booths and whatnot, but just walk around the outer perimeter, go through all the aisles, and that was about it. So I will put a little speed on the video at the end, just so you're not sitting there for half an hour watching everything, but just to get an idea of the crowds and how much there actually was to see and do. So it did feel like a very local, low-key, small con, but for me, and this is all based on perspective, I'm not into Funkos. I love artists, but there weren't really any artists I was interested in this time. Typically, I love going to like the collectible booths like Sideshow, Gentle Giant, Hot Toys, Kotobukiya. Kotobukiya was there, and typically they have a huge setup. This time it was just one little DTOF, or like 2 DTOF display cases with their current lineup and a few future releases. There was Bandai, I believe, and 1 or 2 other toy and collectible companies, but I wasn't into. As usual, a lot of comic book vendors and sellers and bookstores. Torpedo Comics, they always come around. They're one of my favorites. They were there as well. Heritage Auctions was there. CGC and CBCS were not there. Granted, this was such a smaller show. I am surprised they didn't have some kind of presence too. But for me personally, I maybe stopped by 4 or 5 tables and booths total. There just really wasn't much for me to see or do. One of the things I absolutely love about San Diego Comic-Con is the area and the location and the convention center. The convention center is right on the water, right up the street from Gaslamp. We have Little Italy not too far north, and Padres Stadium. I forgot the name of the stadium, but the baseball stadium is right there too. You have a ton of hotels, restaurants, everything. It was very local. Gaslamp area was not busy at all. Actually, Friday night was a lot busier than Saturday night, which I thought was weird. I figured if anything, Saturday would be busier, even for the convention. For off-site events, there were only 2 that I saw that I think were happening. One was the La Brea and Resident Alien combined, but it was more so a La Brea show display, which you just had a few photo ops and they gave you like hand sanitizer or a water bottle at the end, nothing too crazy. On the other side, they had a Peacemaker exhibit or Peacemaker outdoor off-site event, which was kind of like an obstacle course with food. I did not partake in that, but if you all saw, John Cena actually made an appearance. I think Parks and Cons and the SDCC unofficial blog kind of got those first few photos of him. He showed up at the masquerade first and then showed up at the offsite event. It seemed like the Thanksgiving family crowds is what made up most of that San Diego area, not so much the Comic-Con crowds. The whole backside of the convention center wasn't even used. I mean, there was no IMDb boat, there was no Fox or Rick and Morty, anything like that like in years past. So it was really quiet compared to years past. We went up to Little Italy to get like lunch and dinner and hang out. There were more people in Little Italy than all of Gaslamp, it seemed like. And I love Little Italy. It's a great place to go have great Italian food, gelato, walk around. We saw the farmers market on Saturday, and just the locals over there were more maybe they knew it was Comic-Con, but I did overhear a lot of people near the convention center saying they didn't even know Comic-Con was happening. It felt like Comic-Con crowds in Little Italy that weren't even from Comic-Con. So yeah, a little weird dynamic in that aspect. The Comic-Con merch area had, I believe they were cheaper priced this year. I could be wrong, but I did get this shirt for $12, which I could have sworn Comic-Con shirts are usually like $20, $30. So I got this. It was this SDCC like collegiate style, so this was pretty cool. And they gave us a free pin with it as well. If you can see that, is that right? Yeah, Golden State Comic Con, so kind of like a retro Comic-Con pin. And I don't recall if they ever gave pins in the past, and like I mentioned, I don't recall if the shirts were that cheap, but I saw posts on Facebook saying on Sunday shirts were down to $5 each. You don't ever see those kind of prices for Comic-Con merch. And they also had like the denim jacket, they had the tote bags, water bottles, tiki mugs. It was so great to be back, but it definitely felt off. And obviously it felt off because of everything going on and the time of year and just settings and whatnot, but it wasn't, I hate to sound cynical, I shouldn't say cynical, but I hate to sound like a Debbie Downer. If you paid the $150 price tag, I really want to hear out your thoughts about it, because personally, getting in for, free by, working for volunteering, I could not imagine paying $150 for, granted for 3 days, but not even needing 3 days, because like I mentioned, Friday walked around in less than an hour. Saturday I spent maybe, besides volunteering, a total of 3 hours going through the exhibit hall, and including my volunteer shift, 6 hours, 10 hours total for $150. It just did not seem worth it to me. So would I go back if they do another special edition? Depends. If they make that special edition San Diego Comic-Con just at a different time of year, possibly. If it's going to be a Comic-Con special edition, scaled down, nonchalant, super casual, nothing really going on, tickets are still available on site the day of you want to go, probably not. I guess it could be a combination of COVID, of Thanksgiving weekend, of the price of, put aside Thanksgiving, just the time of year, well, knowing that it wasn't going to be as great as typical San Diego Comic-Con. So many different factors can go into possibly why crowds were so low. In my opinion, the lineup of guests and appearances and offerings and exhibits and companies is what really drew people back. I'd hate to hear if anyone did pay for it, and then as it got closer, because I don't think we even got any announcements until the last 2 weeks of the convention. So luckily tickets were still available if you were waiting to buy them and did ultimately make the choice. But if you bought them way back when they were first released and we had no information and you were disappointed by it, I would hate to hear that. But if you have anything you want to add or comment about or ask about, feel free to leave that down below. With that, I will ask, it'd be greatly appreciated if you like the video, subscribe to my channel, follow me on Instagram. I'll be at LA Comic Con and Star Wars Celebration and WonderCon and San Diego Comic Con next year. Hopefully those all go smoothly. For the rest of the video, I'll play the videos of my actual Comic Con vlogging and walk around experience. And thank you all for watching. I hope this brought a nice perspective for people who didn't go or just others who were there and wanted to get more opinions on it. We will see you all at the next convention. So stay tuned, everyone.